Oh, before we get started, do subscribe to FarmLab, because what I'm about to share really does challenge everything you thought you knew about soil chemistry and fertility. Adding ash to a garden is, well, ancient wisdom. Inoculating soil with microbes, on the other hand, is modern science. I combined both, honestly expecting just modest improvements, but the result was nothing short of unreal. What unfolded in my beds illustrates a paradox that farmers and gardeners have stumbled upon for centuries, yet, rarely understand fully. Why adding ash has been a secret weapon for centuries. Wood ash has been used by humans for thousands of years, from Viking fields to indigenous North American gardens. It is rich in calcium, potassium and trace minerals, and it naturally raises soil pH. In acidic soils, this can correct imbalance, improving nutrient availability. Historically, ash was not measured with meters or charts. It was just added empirically, often after burning fields or hearths, and, well, the effect was unmistakable. Plants grew sturdier, leaves turned dark, and yields improved. Why soil microbes are equally essential and, honestly, have been historically overlooked. Microbes are the invisible workforce of soil. They process organic matter, fix nitrogen, and build soil structure. Now, ancient farmers may not have called them microbes, but they certainly observed their effects. Heavily manured fields, composted heaps, and multi-layered garden beds were all ways to encourage microbial life. Without microbes, nutrients from ash, compost or organic matter just remain locked in forms that plants simply cannot use. So, what happens when ash and microbes meet in the soil? Well, when I added ash to my beds and then inoculated them with a mix of compost tea and microbial starters, the soil chemistry shifted really rapidly. The pH rose just enough to make calcium and potassium more available. The microbes thrived in this improved environment, multiplying and colonizing organic matter more aggressively than they would in acidic soil. The result was a feedback loop. Ash unlocked nutrients, microbes processed them, and plants absorbed them almost immediately. Historically, this synergy may explain why some so-called slash-and-burn fields replenished with household ashes and organic residues actually outperformed others despite minimal labour input. The combination of pH correction and microbial stimulation is, well, subtle, but truly transformative. Why the pH paradox is, more about balance than extremes. It is easy to assume more ash equals better results, but this is not the case. Too much raises pH excessively, which can inhibit nutrient uptake and even harm those vital microbes. Too little, on the other hand, leaves soils acidic, slowing microbial activity. The paradox here is that small, careful doses of ash, when they're combined with robust microbial populations, actually produce outsized results. Well, history has repeatedly confirmed this principle. Incremental interventions, guided by observation rather than wholesale chemical applications, have always yielded the most resilient soils. Let me share how I applied the trick in practice. So I first tested the soil with a simple pH meter to determine just how acidic the beds were. Then I sprinkled finely sifted hardwood ash evenly over the surface, using only enough to gently raise the pH slightly toward neutral. Next, I applied a microbial solution made from well-aged compost tea, making sure the microbes had enough moisture and organic food to thrive. The key, really, was timing. Ash first, microbes second, and the soil kept moist, but not waterlogged. Within just a few weeks, the soil crumbled more easily, retained water better, and had an earthy aroma that was, well, quite absent before. Seedlings grew faster, roots penetrated deeper, and foliage was visibly healthier. This method can be adapted to small plots, raised beds, or even larger fields, with adjustments in ash and microbial volume as needed. Now, let's take a moment to understand why this approach actually supports long-term fertility. It's not just a quick fix, but rather it lays the groundwork for soil health that lasts for years to come. So, here's the thing. Ash alone provides minerals, but it really doesn't do much to sustain biology. On the other hand, microbes alone, well, they do improve decomposition, but they can be held back if nutrients are lacking. But when you bring the two together, they actually build both chemical and biological fertility, much like the ancient agrarians did, even though they probably didn't fully realize it. The soil, in a sense, becomes self-amplifying. Microbes process nutrients, plants take them up, organic matter accumulates, and the pH stays balanced over time. In the long run, this means you need fewer synthetic inputs, and you'll notice your soil structure and resilience steadily improve. Now, let's talk about how to avoid common mistakes. It's always worth taking a moment to consider where things can go wrong, so you can be sure you're getting the best results from your efforts. Now, the most common mistake, really, is overcorrecting soil pH with ash. Hardwood ash is generally preferred, you see, because it's low in salts and quite rich in calcium. On the other hand, softwood or coal ash can actually harm the soil. Another pitfall, and it's one that folks often overlook, is applying microbes to dry or compacted soil. They really need immediate access to moisture and organic matter in order to properly establish themselves. Historically speaking, soils that were treated with careful ash application and repeated microbial encouragement were, well, consistently more productive than those that underwent extreme interventions. Now, let's consider how survivalists and low-input farmers can benefit from these practices. By making the most of locally available resources, they can maintain productive soil without relying on expensive external inputs. In survival or off-grid systems, the combination of ash and microbes is, well, truly invaluable. There's no need for synthetic fertilizers, and the soil can actually recover quite quickly between crops, which is a real advantage in these situations. Even small amounts of ash collected from daily fires can be, cleverly leveraged to rebuild soil fertility year after year. The microbial populations really do the heavy lifting, while the ash ensures that nutrients remain accessible and aren't lost to acidity. So, what do the results actually look like in the garden? Well, beds treated in this way really do feel alive. The soil just crumbles in your hand. Water infiltrates evenly. Roots are able to grow much deeper. And honestly, the plants themselves put on strong, vigorous growth. In some cases, I noticed that crops which had previously seemed rather weak suddenly thrived, almost as though the soil itself had been revitalized overnight. Now, it's not magic. It's simply chemistry and biology working together in tandem. A principle that's recognized, but, far too often forgotten by gardeners who rely a bit too much on single solutions. If you're after practical techniques that blend historical insight with modern understanding, do subscribe to FarmLab. And, share this guide with anyone looking to get more from their soil without turning to synthetic fertilizers. The pH paradox really proves that careful observation, along with a little ash and thriving microbes, can produce results that seem almost unreal, but are in fact entirely natural.